Arc Raiders has been out for a week, and I've been loving pretty much every single moment. I originally made a video covering my thoughts on the server slam 3 weeks ago, but I've been having so much fun with this game, I wanted to make a complete review of Arc Raiders where I basically cover everything. I've seen a lot of people calling this the first casual extraction shooter, and while I think that's true, there's still so much depth to this game that even though it's more casual, it's not simple or boring. I think Embark Studios has perfectly nailed an extraction shooter that hardcore and casual gamers can have a great experience together. I haven't made a review this in depth before, so if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe to let me know if you'd like to see more gaming content like this in the future. The story of Arc Raiders is the core foundation of the game. Arc Raiders is set in a futuristic reality where the world has been taken over by robots and humanity lives underground in a town called Speranza, struggling to survive. They rely on raiders to go up to the surface and scavenge for loot, and while you're on the surface, you'll encounter multiple different AI robots, and you'll also have the danger of raiders trying to take your loot and your life. This is the core premise of the game and will influence the gameplay and progression throughout the entire game. One of the nice things about this game is that it actually has a story, and completing tasks will enhance not just the overall story, but further the character development for traders in the game. And all the traders are completely voice acted, so you don't have to read through lines and lines of dialogue. For example, one of the quests involves a trader named Tyann Wen, who is not very cooperative with the other traders, and Celeste, who is trying to unify the team and act as a leader for Speranza. Celeste wants you to go find an item on the surface, and you find out that this item is actually a patch that belonged to Tyann Wen's mother, who was a raider that fought in the first wave. She gives Tyann the patch in hopes that she will become closer to the team, kind of like an olive branch, and completing the task will give you this cutscene.
You got a minute?
Depends.
Come on, I have something you might want to see. One of the rookies brought it back earlier.
This is... They found this. Up there.
Old outpost back on the ridge. Used to be half buried. There might be more in there, but I know this was your mother's squad, so I thought you should have it.
You know, coming from you, this almost feels like a trap. Still, I'll hang on to this.
This only scratches the surface when it comes to the character development or the story progression in the game. You're not going to get a cutscene for every single thing that you do, but these cutscenes will play as pivotal progression points as you play through Arc Raiders. This story will also continue through new updates and content releases. This was confirmed by a developer interview between the design director, Virgil Watkins, Baoliv, and Luke's Alive. The link for that video will be in the description. But looking even further into the future of Arc Raiders, the developers have said that they have a 10-year-long plan for this game, so this game's story is just beginning. But the story is not what makes this game so great, it's the gameplay. Arc Raiders has the typical PvEVP action that you would expect from other extraction shooters, and for those of you who don't know, PvEVP means you're going to be fighting AI alongside with other players at any given moment. But this game has a unique twist. The AI isn't the typical NPC military guy that just shoots at you. This game has an entire roster of AI robots called Arc. And unlike other extraction shooters, these enemies might be more dangerous than other players. I'm out of ammo. That's a sick joke. I just have to run. Oh, no, 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 no. You stay over there. You stay over there. Oh, I can hear it behind me. Ah! I would cover the Arc now, but there's so much to talk about that I'm going to make an entire section on them later in this video. But overall, the gameplay feels very responsive and smooth. I'm going to be showing raw gameplay throughout the video to showcase this. But before I get ahead of myself, let's talk about the basic concept of the game. Arc Raiders is a third-person extraction shooter. The gameplay loop for extraction shooters is this. You make a loadout, you pick a map, you scavenge for loot, and you try to extract. Try being the key word because if you die, you will lose everything. And if you think that sounds pretty hardcore, you'd be right. Extraction shooters have historically been for a more hardcore audience, and casuals haven't been willing to try them because of the risk, complexity, or having terrible onboarding experiences. But I think Arc Raiders changes this. You immediately get dropped into a tutorial that shows you the basic concepts of the game and narratively shows you that no matter how good you are going to die. But one of the things that I like about this game is that most of the learning is done through quests and filling out your codex. Some of the first quests have you focused on smaller things like looting certain areas, killing smaller enemies, and interacting with the world. This is done to try and give you a little bit more of an onboarding experience, having you play the game and learning as you go. If you're wondering what a endgame quest looks like, I've put about 40 hours into the game and I've completed over 50 quests. And I'm starting to get stuff similar to other extraction shooters like Tarkov. For example, going into a raid to find a specific item on the map and return it to the vendor, but if you die, then you have to restart the quest. Or killing a certain boss enemy and looting their specific item. But one of the main systems that players will need to learn and interact with is the crafting system. Before I dive too deep, you need to know that every lootable item in this game has a purpose. Whether it's for crafting, upgrading your workbenches, or building your expedition pod, every item has a use at some point. So, for the love of God, do not sell your light bulbs because I haven't found a single one in 10 hours. But all jokes aside, you can craft pretty much everything. When you start the game, you'll get your own personal room where you can make workbenches that allow you to craft more and better items. But that does not mean that you can craft everything in the game. If you want to craft some of the best loot in the game, you're going to need to find the blueprint in the raid, extract with it, learn the recipe in your stash, and then have the workbench level to craft it. These items don't just get handed out to you. It's a lot of work to craft these higher tier items, but it's worth it in the end because the gear gives you a major advantage. I'll show you how useful crafting is by giving you a little bit of an example about how I would get ready for a raid. First, I would craft my augment that would dictate the amount of loot that I can carry and the level of shield that I can have, and then I would go on to craft my shield, gun, ammo, and healing items. You can even craft some grenades and some other specialty items, but I have so much stuff in my stash during this recording, it's kinda scuffed. So I apologize, but you get the point. You can craft everything that you would need to survive in a raid, even if you had nothing. But let's say you had literally nothing and you were basically screwed. You can just get a free loadout. And this loadout will give you a super basic kit of low level gear that allows you to keep playing even if you don't have the gear to do so. But let me be clear, this kit is usually pretty trash. But the nice thing is that if you extract with these items in this free loadout, you can keep it to use toward better items, or you can just use it in your next raid. This makes sure that no matter what skill level you are or how bad your luck is, you can keep playing and keep progressing. And speaking of progressing, let's talk about the skill tree. This skill tree is another very important part of your progression in Arc Raiders. There are three main paths that you can use, which are conditioning, mobility, or survival. You get a skill point every time you increase your player level, and you can put it into whatever skill tree you want, but sticking with the same path on a skill tree can be beneficial. For example, certain skills require a level of commitment into the same path in order to unlock certain skills. So if you want to get the skill Security Breach, you need to invest 36 points into the survival tree. I would highly recommend sticking with mobility or survival because conditioning doesn't have as many benefits as the other two. My feedback to Embark Studios would be to completely rework this into a gun focused tree. Some of the better perks along the skill tree could be faster reloads for all guns by 20%, increased ADS speed for 30%, or the ability to craft ammo mid raid. I understand that the attachments for the weapons are how you would get these types of benefits, but I believe that this would make players more willing to deviate from the mobility and the survival tree. But even though I think that there could be improvements to the skill tree, it's still a refreshing addition to the extraction shooter genre. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that this game has multiple different AI enemies, so let's dive deeper into the most unique part about this game. There are multiple different enemies that I would classify into three types: ground, flying, and boss units. Some of these kind of overlap with each other, but for the most part, it's true. The ground units are smaller enemies that typically are in buildings and try and surprise you or overwhelm you. The flying units typically fly in groups of two or three, and they will follow you across the map if you keep aggro. And the bosses are obviously stronger, and they will kill you instantly if you don't know how to deal with them. Luckily, the game does a pretty good job at teaching you how to deal with the AI enemies through the codex and just general video game knowledge. For example, most players will find that the best way to deal with the flying enemies is just to shoot the thrusters, but if you didn't pick up on that, the codex will just tell you this information. Now, in case you're wondering, this does not translate to the higher level bosses in the game. The codex just isn't going to tell you, hey, by the way, if you throw fire at a leaper, it'll just die in 5 seconds. That's just something that you're going to have to learn through trial and error. But the game informs you enough to be able to survive some of the basic AI enemies. But what I found most impressive about this game's AI is the ability to adapt to the player's gameplay. If you're being pursued by flying units and take cover in a building, the AI will shoot through the windows and try and hit you, or they'll just fly straight through the roof and keep pursuing you. The most well-known example of this is that if you shoot a leaper from a couple hundred meters away, it will pursue you from those couple hundred meters and jump up to 3 to 4 stories to try and chase you. Some of these clips are completely hilarious, and I've had this experience myself. However, just like with any other game, the bosses don't become as scary the more that you play. But make no mistake, they are still a threat, and they will kill you if you get too cocky. And speaking of cocky, yeah, I forgot to tell you that you get your own personal rooster that gives you materials after every raid, but that transition was just too good to rewrite, and it's just going to stay in the script. The developers have confirmed that new enemy types will be releasing in the future to keep the game fresh, and I can't wait to see what kind of abominations that Embark Studios is cooking up next. The maps in this game are pretty diverse and unique. There are currently 4 maps, and a 5th one will be releasing pretty soon. Each map has a different layout and an enemy difficulty that's associated with it. The harder the difficulty, the more bosses and enemy ground troops that there will be. All of the maps also have a night raid option. This is a higher risk, higher reward option that rotates on a real time basis. The maps also have dynamic weather systems that change up the setting from raid to raid. This game looks incredible, and for reference, I play on a 3080 GPU, so you don't need the most expensive hardware just to make this game look good. One of the nice features that I appreciate about this game is that you're only allowed to play the damn battlegrounds for the first 6 raids. This might sound a little restricting at first, but it actually funnels new players into the same map so that way they can learn the basics and have an easier time with the combat because it is the lowest difficulty map. As you play more raids, you'll unlock the rest of the maps. I think it took about 15 to 20 raids for me to unlock every single map, and it doesn't matter how long that the raids are. The maps also have modifiers that will rotate on a daily and weekly basis. At the time of recording this, the spaceport had increased loot at the launch tower, the Blue Gate had increased arc probe spawns across the map, and the Dam Battlegrounds had the Queen modifier that introduces the hardest enemy in the game, which, if you'll excuse me, I need to do that right now. Well, the audio for this footage was corrupted, but here's the TLDR. After 60 grenades and hundreds of bullets, we almost killed the boss but ran out of time. Now let's move on to the matchmaking and the social features of this game. I'm going to combine these topics together because they complement each other very well. There isn't a matchmaking option that allows you to choose solo, duo, or trios. The only option is if you want the squad fill on or not. But Arc Raiders does a phenomenal job at creating lobbies filled with solo players. During one of my solo raids, I found 7 to 8 other solo players and we teamed up for the entire game and took down some of the bosses. Hello, hello?
Hello?
Hey, you got any apricots on you?
No, but there's a tree, like, right here. Yeah, there's a tree right here. You can pick it, and there's 2 on the ground.
I think I got all the apricots I need.
If anyone needs any plants,
Right here.
it's right here.
Yo, are you guys all solos? Holy shit! Boys, we have an entire army. Do you want to take down that big boy over there?
What up, brother?
Yeah, let's do
I
it.
got some nades.
Let's do it.
Let's do it!
I have a barricade, that's all I got.
Okay. I got a snap grenade. Let's get it. Dude, I haven't seen this many people before. And I've never been in a situation where I go in as a solo player and then I get put up against a full squad of 3. But I will say that my experience playing solo is completely different from my experience playing in a squad. When I play solo, people are very friendly and treat the game as more of a survival crafting game and actively do not engage in PvP. But if you play in a squad, that is a shoot first and ask questions later environment, which makes the game feel more like an extraction shooter. This might change as the game gets older and the community is less trusting, but for now, your experience will be very different depending on your use of the proximity chat. The addition of proximity chat makes this game even better. I've had so many funny encounters using proximity chat with other players that makes this one of my favorite multiplayer games of the last 5 years, which blows my mind that Bungie was going to launch Marathon without a proximity chat. But anyway, this game's matchmaking and social features adds another level of charm to the game, and I hope other extraction shooters keep adding this in the future. The endgame for extraction shooters can be a little hard to define, but it's pretty much playing higher maps, completing harder quests, chasing the best loot in the game, and doing more PvP. But extraction shooters tend to do server wipes that completely reset everyone back to 0. I understand the reasons that most extraction shooters do this because it brings everyone back to an even playing field. But I personally don't like this system and I don't think it respects my time, and that's why a lot of other casual players haven't really touched extraction shooters, but Embark Studios has a different approach. Arc Raiders does not plan to have mandatory wipes that reset player progression, and instead will introduce a new system called Expeditions that is a completely voluntary restart. These expeditions will unlock once you hit level 20 and allows you to build a capsule that'll take you into unknown territory, which is just the story way to reset you back to nothing. The incentives for this will include cosmetics and permanent player bonuses. While I'm unsure what bonuses I will get for completing the expedition, the developers have confirmed that the bonuses won't give player power or a combat advantage. I'm currently on stage 3 of 6 for the expedition project, and this is what it looks like. You basically take some of the materials that you have and dedicate them to the expedition project. If you're a casual player and you don't complete this in time, you'll be able to pick it up from the exact same point when the season resets. I think this system could be the best way to keep hardcore players invested while also respecting the time of casual players. There might be problems with the system, and it will need a little bit of tuning, but I think that this is a step in the right direction. And speaking of problems, this game does have a few bugs that I encountered during my time playing. I really love this game, but I think it's important to point out the flaws in a review, not only to be less biased, but also to bring awareness to the issues. The worst bug that I encountered was when I was on the Buried City map trying to extract. I was behind a bench waiting for the extract, and I ended up getting stuck, and the game gave me an option to fix stuck player. But instead of fixing this, it put me outside of the map, and I was unable to get back in and lost all of my loot. Another issue that I ran into is when I started playing with my friend, when they loaded into the game, they were completely stuck and were unable to move. They had to leave the game and restart their application in order to fix this problem. I also had my first game crash with this newest update. It's worth mentioning that when you crash, upon logging in, you'll get a screen that basically just says you need to reconnect to the match or you're going to lose all of your gear. Don't get me wrong, these bugs are annoying. But I've had so much fun with this game that I really forgot that half of this stuff even really happened until I started diving through my footage to create this video. Hopefully these things get fixed. Now, before I wrap up, I want to talk about the monetization of this game, and I think it's pretty fair. The base game is $40 and the deluxe edition is $60. The deluxe edition comes with a few cosmetics, and it does not come with anything that's pay to win. There is a battle pass and there is a skin shop. The battle pass is completely free and unlocks some skins, and the shop currently only offers cosmetics and does not offer player gear or power. Earlier in the video, I referenced a developer interview with Baolive and Luke's Alive. And in that same interview, the design director confirmed that future battle passes would cost money. But they are looking into ways for players to earn premium currency for when they roll out these paid battle passes. If this happens, I think it would be very beneficial to the game. One of the main selling points for Helldivers 2 is the fact that you could earn premium currency, and it built more trust with the community. And overall, I think the monetization for this game is pretty fair, and if this is implemented, it'll only be even better. So to wrap up my review, I think Arc Raiders is my new favorite extraction shooter and one of the best multiplayer games that I've played in the last 5 years. The gameplay is addictive, the game has so much depth while also being super approachable, and the social features like proxy chat make this game so great. This is the longest and by far most in-depth review that I've ever done, so if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more gaming related content. Let me know in the comments what you think of Arc Raiders and what game I should review next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!